Hey guys, I am back, and this is a pure viewer request video, and it's been asked for a few different times, so I'm gonna do it. So on this channel, a few times, quite a few times, I have been seen praising and using this Ganzo Firebird F756. It looks strangely, or not strangely, suspiciously, whatever you want to say, similar to the Benchmade Model 940. Look at that. Now, I'm sure it is not an accident that it looks so similar. I did a whole video once about Ganzo knives, and I will put a link to it in the video description if you want to check it out, about Ganzo knives, specifically focusing on their, I can't remember the model number now, but their knives that are based off of the Benchmade Griptilian 551 series. Ganzo does a lot of, now you get offended if I call it copying. We're not going to call it clones because, it has been pointed out several times. A clone is a direct knockoff where they try to make the exact same knife with the counterfeit, logos and stuff like that. So it's not a clone. But, I think we can clearly see that one design is incredibly influenced by the other. And by influenced, I mean, like, is it a one-for-one knockoff? No. But clearly one is representative of the other, right? I have said several times, though, also that, even though I own a handful of 940s, I prefer the much cheaper Ganzo. And why is that? People have said, why don't you compare the two? Why don't you show the two? And I wanted to do that, but, it wasn't a fair comparison, one for one for a while, because I never had the G10 handled 940-2 until I did a trade with one of the longtime viewers, Jimmy Scott. And I know it's okay to say his name because he actually wanted me to do a whole unboxing kind of mail call vid when I got it. So because of Jimmy, I now have the actual G10 handled 940, which I can directly compare to a G10 handled 756, which is a perfect comparison if we're going to look at one versus the other. So this works out really, really well. So, first let's talk about, how do we know that one design was influenced by another? Because the 940 has been on the market a lot longer than Ganzo has been selling these knives, period. The 940 is a Warren Osborne design. It fits into a family of Benchmade knives. So you've got the 950 Rift, you've got the 810 Contigo, and the 940. Does the 940 have a name? Don't think it does. But they are all Warren Osborne's reverse Tonto blade, kind of Benchmade series, family, whatever. They all sort of look like each other in escalating size, from the 940 being the smallest to the 950 to the 810. I have the 810, but I don't have a 950 anymore. Unfortunately, it was lost a long time ago. But they all share family lines. I love Warren Osborne as a designer. I love the reverse Tonto blade as a utility shape, as an EDC shape. The 810 Contigo with the size and weight on it. I did the whole hard use challenge on that versus the Benchmade 275 and the Ontario 499. And you can find that vid under my playlist of hard use kind of stuff if you want to see that video series, how it played out. It's a great knife. Some people love the 940. Some people don't like the 940. Obviously, some people don't like the 940, which is why I have this one in my hand. It is lightweight. It's small, nearly 3.5-inch blade. It is kind of small though. I carried one for a while. The original one has an aluminum handle. There's also one that comes in carbon fiber. It's one of Benchmade's best-selling brands. But people either love or hate the 940. It's got a pretty significant price tag attached to it, though. It is not a cheap knife at all. And I think as I was searching online, this version, the G10 handled version, I found for just the fine edge blade, It's about 174, 175. Now, of course, Benchmade's website always has it listed for more, but most of the online retailers I looked at, I think on Amazon there was the option for like 160 something for a part serrated blade, but most people don't enjoy the part serration on the blades. They like a nice straight edge. But anyway, about 174 is the average price I found it for. Now let's take a look real quick at the Ganzo overall. Then we'll compare them. I have been enjoying the Ganzo for quite a while since I found it. A few years. It is, Ganzo is a low-cost Chinese knife brand. Now, low cost does not mean low quality. Yes, it is lower quality than something like Benchmade in terms of materials that they use. You will find some production flaws now and then, but overall, Ganzo and their kind of Firebird, which is they're all one company, they make decent quality stuff. No, I take it back. They make good quality stuff. They make reliable, affordable knives. They're not going to last forever, and they're not going to be the kinds of things you can trade for really awesome stuff later. But they're simple, they're functional, and they work. And they might need a little more love and care than, say, something with an S30V super steel blade when you're dealing with 440C. But they work. The most important thing about a knife is that it is reliable. Now, when I do my ratings, when I'm reviewing knives, sure, I talk about quality of materials and all of that, but that's one factor in a knife. To some people, that's very, very important. But I'm often in my videos saying stuff like, look, a 440C blade with a good heat treatment is a very reliable steel. Sure, it is not going to stand the test of time and edge retention, all that other stuff, like a quote-unquote better steel like S30V or M390 or something like that. But a well-done, well-made 440C blade is going to perform for you. So when we say lower cost does not always mean crap quality. Often, unfortunately, it does. But that is a product of companies out there. There are a lot of companies, and that's why I have, plugging it again, another playlist called Low Cost Knife Reviews, where I try to show some of the lower cost options that will give you a decent value. And Ganzo is one of those companies where, yes, they are Chinese made, but they're not like crap knives. They're decent quality knives. I don't like to use the word starter brand anymore because I think it has bad implications, but it's a great starter brand knife for somebody that's looking to get into it. Anyway, some people will say that, you compare one to the other and it's, is it a copy or is it inspired by? I think to use the word inspired by is kind of ridiculous. Yes, I'm going to say they copied the design. They did. Now, for better or worse, they did. There's too many similarities to say, oh no, they were just inspired. Like, inspired is it looks a little bit like it, but it goes off on its own. There's too many contours that are too similar. The shape of the handle, the blade shape, the swedge. It's too much to say, oh no, it was just inspired by it. And I'm not saying it's bad that they copied it. Some people would say it's terrible, it's horrible, I'll never give them my business. They didn't clone it. That's the thing. Like, they didn't clone it, okay? That would be an unforgivable sin. What they did was they took a shape that people really like, they made a few changes, they did a downgrade, because when this came out, there was no G10 940. When the 756 came out, it was an aluminum handled, more expensive 940, and then there was a carbon fiber version, and then finally there was a G10 version. And I'm thinking maybe Benchmade noticed how well these were selling and gave a little bit of a change and lowered prices a little bit. But whatever, that's another story. So first thing you can notice, though, putting the knives next to each other, the 756 is just a little bit bigger of a knife, which is one of the reasons I like it. In my hand, it just feels a little bit better than the little 940, especially the height and width of the handle. When I'm holding it, it just feels a little bit better in my hand. Now, this is something that's going to be all 100% personal preference for the user. Okay, this is not The fact that it's bigger, that's a fact. It feeling better, that's all me. This is something that, you've got to decide for yourself. I prefer a slightly larger knife in my hand to fill out my hand and feel good. It just so happens that the 756 does that for me. And that's what I've been saying all along when people are like, oh, but it's, I try not to get offended when I have the Ganzo and they're like, oh, there's the 940 blah, blah. I'm like, duh. I'm holding this for a reason. And I usually say, yeah, it's a bit bigger. It feels better. I like it that way. So you've got the Benchmade access lock. And people ask this all the time too. How can companies be using the access lock? That's theft, that's blah, blah, blah. It's not actually. The patent on the access lock itself ran out years ago. So they cannot use the name access lock, but they can use the mechanics. Ganzo calls it the G-lock. As long as they don't use the trademark name access lock, they're not breaking any laws. There is a patent on it. Patents expire. Companies can then go to move to extend the patent or not. And the patent can be, in the patent system, I don't know how it works, it can be approved for extension or not. So it's no longer a patented thing. Companies can use it as long as they don't use the trademark name access lock. Or, they have to get license permission from Benchmade to call it an access lock. But to simply use this locking system, that's not illegal. That's not patented anymore. I mean, it's patented by Benchmade, but there's not a legal patent on it anymore. So they both have their lock system, which, I mean, this one is a little bit tighter, but that can break in, This one happens to be, I think, a little bit more used. Yes, the tolerances you're going to get in a Benchmade are going to be a little bit better than the tolerances you're going to get in a Ganzo. I mean, there's no way around it. I'm also at a very awkward angle with the camera here, so I can't do a very good flip on this. Internally, you've got 2 bronze phosphor washers for the Benchmade. Here you've got 1 nylon and 1 bronze. Why? I have no idea, but that's the way it goes. Simpler construction on the Ganzo. So with the Benchmade, you've got inset, just like on the Griptilian, you've got inset steel liners that don't go the full length of the knife. They're in there, but they're only there to hold this access mechanism in. That's the only reason they exist. And then you've got these barrel spacers to hold the knife, open, basically. With your Ganzo, much simpler construction. They took an easier way around it. So full steel liners, they're skilletized, if you can see that here, to reduce weight a little bit, and then they just slap the G10 scales on the side of it. Easy, no problem. But other than that, barrel spacer construction. But construction is fairly similar. Each one has an adjustable clip for left or right tip-up carry. Specs are very similar if you're looking at the specs on the blade. So the Benchmade has a 3.4-inch blade made of S30V stainless steel. Overall length is 7.87 inches. Weighs in at 2.65 ounces, so it's very light. Your Ganzo, it's a 3.5-inch 440C stainless steel blade. 8.2 inches overall. Bit heavier at 4.32 ounces. The big difference, huge difference here, like I said, average price you're going to find this online, $174.95. Amazon Prime, $18.99. There's the carbon fiber version of this for, you're going to have to pay a bit more money, $22. The blade on this comes either with a black coating, I don't know what it is, or actually a very nice stonewash. You're going to get either a black kind of PVD coating or satin finish on your Benchmade. That's about it. If you look at the width of the blade, though, I mean, it's pretty much, you're getting the same kind of steel, maybe a little bit skinnier on the Benchmade, and I can tell you that that's like 0.12 inches. I don't know what that translates into, but I mean, they're very, very similar. Very similar. Now, I'm not going to do a cutting test because each of these knives is used, so we're not going to be able to like get a right out of the box how are they finished. I mean, I can tell you that the Ganzos, I've reviewed them a lot. They come out of the box very, very well finished all the time. Benchmades usually come out of the box very, very well finished almost all the time. I mean, you know, we're not. None of that is in question here. We're just showing the two knives. The fact is, yes, you are paying a lot more. You're paying a lot more for this steel over this steel. But you know what you're paying for, honestly, 100% when you buy the 940 over the Ganzo. Let me show you right here. See those letters? See those letters right there? You're paying a lot for that. Yes, there is a difference in made in the USA versus made in China. Sure. But, you know, Ganzo is a company that provides good quality. I cannot stress that enough. They are not one of those Chinese brands that... they're not MTech. They're not Tac Force. They're not one of those brands. They make good quality stuff. Repeatable quality stuff. You can buy 10 Ganzo knives from 10 different places and unbox them and have an expectation of repeatable quality. You know what I mean? It's not like when you buy 10 MTechs and like one could be done really well and one could fall apart in your hands as soon as you take it apart in the box and you never know what you're going to get. Now Benchmade has a reputation of good, high quality stuff, but you know, you talk to people nowadays and that reputation has been slipping a lot. I hear all the time, I'm part of some Benchmade groups on Facebook, and you hear people talking about you order a Benchmade by mail and, you know, or from a catalog or online or whatever, and it's like they talk about Benchmade quality the way people used to talk about stuff that comes out of China, with like there's a question of what quality are you going to get. And what are you paying for? Now, I have a lot of Benchmades in my collection. I haven't bought a new Benchmade in a while, and it's simply because the price is so prohibitive for me now. There's some Benchmades there was a Benchmade that went in the bug out bag I gave away. A new Benchmade that I forgot to do an independent review on outside of the bug out bag, and I'm really upset because I really wanted to do it. But I still respect Benchmade as a knife company. I like Benchmade. They do make good, high-quality knives. I think that they're overpriced. I used to think at one point that when you buy a Benchmade, you're paying for a certain level of expectation of quality. And I'm not sure if I can throw down 100% blindly on that anymore. I can tell you that I have never had a Ganzo that I don't feel was worth $18. You know what I mean? Like, I've never used one, put one in my hand, and taken it out to do work, and felt like, oh, there's $18 down the drain. You know, I mean, they're just a simple company that makes, yes, they make inspired by or, you know, copied designs, but they don't make you're never going to hold this knife and convince people like, oh, this is my Benchmade 940, like, you know, fool them to think you have the real thing. It's always going to stand out and be different. They take the time to make your $18 knife look decent, look like a nice knife. Give it like they've got the anodized, you know, hardware in there. These things glow in the dark for about 10 seconds, but they glow in the dark. You have your choice in different G10 colors. It comes in black, orange, and green. There are some of the Benchmade aftermarket accessories will fit on this, like different clips, deep carry clips, and things like that. It's a reliable knife. Again, it's not going to last you forever. I wouldn't take this to a crazy hard use level. I'm just going to come out and say it. There's no EDC task that this is going to do for you that this couldn't do as well. In terms of edge retention and corrosion resistance, yes, S30V is definitely going to give you a level of performance that 440C is just not going to live up to. So there's maintenance required. You know, it's your dollar to spend. So 175 or 19. You know, when you round up. When I tell people I prefer the Ganzo 756 over the 940, it has nothing to do with brand politics or you know, the politics of the owner who, you know, is a staunch Democrat. It has nothing to do with the pricing or anything like that. All it has to do with, solely 100%, and this is what knife ownership and collecting should come down to, is I like the feel of this knife in my hand better than I like the feel of this knife in my hand. That's what it is. And I'm willing to accept, with that comes the fact that I need to do a little bit more maintenance on this edge, and I might need to worry about corrosion a little bit more, but that's okay. I'm willing to take care of this knife, because if I'm going to carry one of the two, I want one that feels comfortable in my hand. I want one that if I'm going to work with for a while is going to put the least stress on my hand. And that's what it comes down to. I'm not worried about, you know, I'm not the least bit concerned about being seen carrying the lower end knife. I would much rather have the more comfortable knife in my hand. And if somebody's like, oh, you know, that's copying the 940, be like, it might be, but at least they fixed some of the issues. It's a better, they did a better job on the 940 than Benchmade did. I wonder why Benchmade didn't make the 940 exactly like this one. And that's basically what I say anytime somebody feels the need to point out to me that it's not a 940. Like, duh. There you go. There's our little comparison, head to head, side to side, between the Benchmade 940 and the Ganzo 756. Two very good knives. I mean, and I should not make this seem like I'm getting down on the 940. I have a gold class 940. I have a special edition 940. I had a standard vanilla 940, you know, with the green aluminum stuff. I gave it to one of my airmen just before I left Florida, who needed a good knife, who I wasn't sure was going to bother to get another knife. You know, didn't know how to shop, so I was just like, all right, whatever, it's yours. And then this one came to me through a trade with Jimmy, which gave me the opportunity to really compare, because I didn't want to put an aluminum, like comparing weights, put an aluminum scaled knife up against a G10 scaled knife, but this worked out great. And there's all sorts of special edition 940s out there for the collectors, by the way. That's one of the most produced in different numbers, different variants, special edition Benchmades out there, you know, if you look for them. But I hope this satisfies the viewer request. For those of you who have asked, like, what are the differences? Could you show us compared one next to the other? You know, here they are. And here's my reason. Why is it that I like the Ganzo 756 next to the Benchmade 940? Like, why do I prefer the lower end knife? That's why. Always happy to do viewer requests. Love doing viewer requests. If you have a specific request, you can send it to the email that's, you know, in the video description. If you haven't seen the update about giveaway shenanigans and how I screwed that up and how I'm fixing it, I will actually, you know what, I'll put an end screen. There'll be an end screen. You can click on it to watch that video, so you kind of see what happened and how we're getting that all solved. But other than that, guys, as always, please remember, you are all absolutely awesome. I appreciate every single one of you. And I'll be back again real soon.